Hello everyone, and welcome back into another video. Today we're once again back in Warframe for another episode of testing your builds from the comments. And if you want me to test your builds as well, leave a comment under this video and I will have a look at them and maybe they will be featured in the next video. I make one of these videos once a month because it takes a lot of time to get all the resources and of course test all the builds, because sometimes I get like 20 or 30 builds and that's a lot to test, and of course it takes a lot of time. But yeah, if you are interested, leave a comment and we will see if I'll use your build in the next video. And as always, these videos will be less edited and less scripted because I want to have fun with your builds. So yeah, less cuts and probably more mistakes, but I will try and remove what I can. Anyways, let's get started and let's have a look at this weapon I've been holding since the start of the video, which is the Boar Prime. This build was sent to me by Ashura on Discord, and this guy has probably one of the most broken revens for this weapon as well. I'll put it on screen right now, and you can see that it pretty much has the best stats for this weapon, because the way we're going to build this weapon today is by increasing as much as possible the status chance and maximizing the amount of blast statuses we can apply on the enemy. We are also gonna use the Incarnon form as well, and these are the evolutions you want. You wanna use Fortress Salvo for more damage and Punch Through if you have over 450 armor. Your evolution 3 is Practice Grip, that is for 50% more accuracy. And finally, in evolution 4, you want to check elemental balance. This is going to be the best one because it does increase your base status chance by 12% for the normal mode and by 96% for the Incarnon form. That puts it at 120% base status chance, and that is how we can reach up to 504% status chance with a basic build. And this is going to be the build we're going to use today. If you have a Riven and if you want to use clans mods, you can do that. Of course, the things you want to remove are probably going to be Prime Chilling Grasp and Frigid Blast, and the stats you want on the Raven are going to be either more cold damage or heat damage. Status chance is also great, multi-shot always nice, and if you can get any negative that removes either impact, punch or slash, that's also fine. Of course, removing impact is going to be the best, and the arcane you want to use is going to be Primary Merciless just because it's the easiest one to trigger. But if you're going to use Zaku, Ashura, I suggest using Primary Deadhead, because this will pretty much double dip with Xata's Whisper and will increase your damage even more. But for today I will showcase this one. I won't be showcasing it in a real mission because that's what Ashura did for me, and he actually went all the way to level cap, so I don't think I have to showcase anything. I'll just show you here in the simulacrum what this weapon can do. And yeah, this is without any stacks from Merciless yet active, so the weapon will not be that great right now. It needs to get some more buffs from of course Merciless and the Galvanized mods, but the moment we kill at least one enemy, yeah, we are just gonna delete everything. That's pretty much what happens. You can see those blast procs just deleting the bars, destroying these poor corrupted heavy gunners. And the primary mode is actually pretty good if you're having trouble against like acolytes or enemies that have like any kind of damage reduction. Yeah, this is pretty much the way to go. You can see that it does shred through the enemies even without removing their armor, and that's the power of this weapon. It's just completely insane. And if there are like a lot of enemies in a group, just use the beam and yeah, that's enough to destroy them. So yeah, single target, swap to your normal mode, and for groups, swap to the Incarnon form. It's that easy and very simple to use. What do you want more than that? Now, this is the footage that Ashura sent, and as you can see, he is a level cap in a mission called Cascade, and this mission will pretty much summon a lot of enemies that are just gonna get stronger and stronger in a very short amount of time. I think like after an hour and something you can reach level cap, so this is the highest level enemies you can see in the game. And yeah, the weapon is pretty much one-shotting them, of course, because that's what it's for, just one-shotting everything. And he's making use of course, some nice powers like Xata's Whisper, and also Nourish for some more viral on the weapon, because that will increase your damage by even more. And yeah, you saw that. This weapon is completely broken, and I do recommend getting it because, yeah, it's that beautiful. Moving to the second build, this one comes from Nick the Ninja 3166 on my second episode of testing your builds, and it uses EquiNUKex and pretty much whatever weapons you want, but the build is very interesting, and these are the mods you want to use on your EquiNUKex. I did change some of them. He, for example, uses Cannon Drift here instead of Prime Sure-Footed. This is a personal preference, but of course, Prime Sure-Footed does help you survive more, so for a kind of squishy build like this one, I think it's convenient to have. He also uses Blind Rage, but I changed that for Umbra Intensify since I already have an Umbra slot, and I'm gonna use Molt Augmented for even more pop strength. So that's pretty much gonna be the same, if not more, than Blind Rage, which is pretty cool. I'm also using Umbral Vitality instead of Boreal Hatred because I don't wanna rely too much on shields, but if that's the thing you wanna do, then yes, use Boreal Hatred. It's probably gonna be better than building for Vitality. And the other two mods I change are Prime Flow and Streamline instead of Stretch and Equilibrium. That's pretty much because Nick didn't say which arcanes he uses, so I improvise with Molt Augmented and Energize, and by having Energize, I do not usually find myself needing Equilibrium to keep my energy up, so having a bigger energy pool is usually better than relying on just Equilibrium. And also EquiNUKEx passive pretty much converts 10% of health orbs into energy, so it's a very, very small Equilibrium, but it's something and it does help eventually. And I replaced Stretch for Streamline because I found myself running out of energy really, really fast, so this should keep my energy pretty much always topped up, and if I cannot keep up my energy with this build, then it's not a build for me, but it's a very fun build, and the way you use it is by having energy transfer and terrify. That way you can pretty much stay in night form and build your damage there, then swap to day form, use your terrify to strip enemies of their armor, and finally cast your main to deal a massive amount of slash damage that kills pretty much everything in range. And I'll just show you right here in the simulacrum real quick, and then we can move on to an actual mission, because this build performs better in an actual mission than just the simulacrum. So the way you want to do it is get your Madurai buffs, so 40% more power strength and casting speed, 50% more casting speed, that's pretty good. We cast our 4, and then we want to start killing enemies. That's pretty much what we need to do. The moment we reach like 2 millions or 3 millions, we can then swap to our day form. So you might have to refresh our Madurai stacks. There we go. Cast our 4 to armor shape, and cast our 2 to armor shape, and then cast our 4, and all the enemies are now gone. I'll just do it again faster so you can have a look at what the rotation might look like. So, Night 4, cast our 4, kill a couple enemies real quick. Shouldn't take too long with this weapon because it's completely broken. Swap, form, cast, terrify, cast, 4, everything is dead. It's very fun, very active, and if you enjoyed this kind of like ability plus weapon gameplay, this is the build for you. It's very, very cool and very enjoyable. Now let's actually move on to an actual mission, and let's see how it performs in there. And here we are in an actual mission, so let's start with the survival. And yeah, again, let's grab our Madurai buffs, that's what we want. Hopefully we can get some early energy, because yeah, we need the energy with this build to survive pretty much. So yeah, we are really squishy. And actually let me just get the buffs again just in case. Let's terrify them right now so we have some survivability active thanks to our CC. We should have like a few millions build up. Yeah, 2 millions. So we swap form, we cast our 4, and as you can see, the whole map dies. I didn't have to cast my Terrify because these enemies are very low level, so their armor doesn't really impact their EHP that much, but yeah, it's pretty cool. And I think Madurai fits this rotation quite well to also include your Operator or Drifter or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, kill some enemies, swap form, cast 4 again, everything dies. Cast form and transform back into night form, cast your 4. You can see it's very active, very cool, and it might be harder to survive if you're not careful. If you want to build again for some shield gating, that's also fine. I think it works, but for me, I prefer more HP just in case I take some hits from these low level enemies. But yeah, if this was level cap, my HP wouldn't matter at all, and I'll just stick to more damage. So let's see, there's a few enemies in range. There are no more enemies in range. That's pretty much how you use it. It's pretty cool, and I enjoy it quite a lot. Let's now go back to the simulacrum real quick, and let's move on to the next build. So let's move on to the simulacrum, and here we are back in simulacrum. So let's move on to the next build. And this next build uses Dagath, which is a warframe. I have used probably like 2 times, so I was quite happy to see a Dagath build because, yeah, at least I had a chance to finally use this warframe. This build comes from Blaze of the Century, that also commented on my second episode of Builds from the Comments, and the build is the usual Dagath build. It's nothing crazy over there. The only different thing is that we're going to use Harmonious instead over Cavalry, and that's because, as Blaze said, pretty much what this build is going to do is armor strip, slow down enemies, debuff them with viral, and they will also take more damage, more crit damage, and yeah, you also have pretty much infinite energy because we're using equilibrium, and enemies that are affected by doom will always drop health orbs, and yeah, that's the power of this build. And if you're wondering about the mods, I have no idea if this is a good build for Dagath, but it does fit my playstyle, and it only uses 1 formas, so if you are low on formas, this is pretty much what you can use. And these are the arcanes I want to use because she will become immune to damage by casting her third ability, so we most of the time will have access to multi-efficiency's 36% ability duration, and that's pretty good. And also, while we are out of our Grave Spirit, we can make use of Rolling Guard to get some more invulnerability and not die. So yeah, by just keeping up our shields, we're pretty much immortal. We also have Brief Respite, Augur Message, and Augur Secrets, and they combine into pretty much giving us 230% energy to shield conversion. So our shield will pretty much always be active, and that means we are very hard to kill. And the way you use it is by using any kind of AoE weapon, the way you can make use of your swords. And we are also gonna grab our Mother buffs because they are just so good. Let's use our 2, let's use our 1, let's use our 3, let's use Harmonious, and that's everything. And as you can see, the enemies already do not like that too much. And let me respawn the enemies because they just died. So again, let's just cast them with the debuffs and stuff, and yeah, this happens. They are one-shot. Everything we do, it's just gonna one-shot them, which is beautiful, and I like that. And it only requires you to cast some abilities, but since we have pretty much infinite energy just laying on the ground, thanks to all these health orbs, yeah, we can just cast abilities as much as we want. Doesn't matter, we can just do whatever we want. The enemies won't really survive that long to even be a threat. So let's now move into a mission, because in the simulacrum it's way too easy, and it doesn't really showcase how powerful this build can be. So let's move on into our actual mission. And here we are back inside the mission. And what we want to do is, again, let's get our Mother buffs. Let's cast our 3 immediately, because the way we are immune to damage. And from now on, by just having Harmonious active, enemies should just die sometimes because they take damage from the sights they have on their head. So yeah. As you can see, I'm just walking around, being immune to damage and destroying everything with one shot. I might have to change my energy colors because they're quite blinding. But yeah, that's pretty much what you do. And the augment also allows you to reduce the cooldown of your 3 by 1 second per kill. So, you know, just by killing a few enemies, pretty much you can just stay invulnerable forever. And that's just great. And as we said, by having a Rolling Guard and relying on our shields, we can stay alive for quite a while. And again, if you run out of shields, just roll, cast your 1, you know, all the fancy stuff, get your shields back, cast your 3, like, you have so many ways to just become invulnerable to damage. It's gonna be really hard to die, like, in general. And yeah, I don't have anything else to add to this, so let's move on to the next build, because yeah, this is just broken. I don't know what else to say. So yeah, Next build, please. Now moving on to the next build, now we have Nezha Prime, and this is, as you may have guessed, this is a nuke build, Nezha nuke build. The thing is that the build that Frauds recommended a couple months ago, I do not find myself being able to play with that build, so I did change quite a lot, but pretty much what happens is gonna be the same. You're just gonna use the weapon he suggested, which is the Harmony, which is insane, by the way, for this build. So yeah, Frauds, you cooked with this one. And what we want to do is cast our 4, kill one enemy, and recast 4, and everything is dead. So yeah, I think we can see a pattern of people just enjoying the fact that all the enemies die at once. For example, the EquiNUKEx build. So yeah, nuking builds probably gonna be the main theme for today's video. But yeah, that's pretty much what you want to do. And of course, he also added Roar for even more damage, because why not? So we cast our 4, we do 1 heavy attack, and that's enough, and then you cast 4 again. And as you can see, many millions of damage occur on screen, and everything is now dead. So if you want to do that, that's pretty good. And of course, we can also use our second ability to debuff enemies even more, and that might deal just a little bit more damage sometimes. You know, it's very balanced. It's perfectly balanced. It's so balanced, in fact, that you can even use another ability instead of Roar. And that ability, you might have guessed it, it's an ability that a very specific Warframe has, which is called Wrathful Advance. This is Kullervo's first ability, and it's gonna be our first ability as well. And I'm just gonna show you this and then move on to the actual build. So let's cast our 4, use our second ability to just have some of the glaives apply some heat stacks, because that's a thing we can do. And we cast our 1, and again, all the enemies just die. Plus, we gain 150% more crit chance on our melee weapon, so it can now crit probably almost into orange crits, or is it just red crits already? No, it's just orange crits so far, but I mean, do you need more than orange crits? I don't think so. I think that's pretty much enough. And yeah, let's now have a look at the actual build. It's the same between this one and this one. The only thing that changes is the ability we are using. We have either Roar or Wrathful Advance. It's up to you which one you prefer. I think they are similar, but of course Roar might perform better. So what we have over here is a very important augment, which is Divine Retribution, and this allows your spear to deal that massive burst of damage when the duration ends. So that's what we want to use, and we need a weapon that deals slash damage, toxin, or heat damage. In this case, we're going to focus on slash damage by using the Harmony, because it's a sight, and it does also have this harmonic resonance buff, which is completely broken because it condenses all status effects that have been applied to the enemy into a single instance of damage, and that is somehow calculated into the augment, into the spear augment, Divine Retribution. So our Divine Spears will deal a massive, tremendous amount of damage. And since we have 200% power strength on our 4, thanks to Precision Intensify, we get the damage multiplied by 3. So yeah, it does deal quite a lot of damage, and we can also grab another 60% more power strength from Mortal Augmented and another 40% from Otherwise, so that's another 100% more strength, which means it reaches 4.5x with all the stacks active. And we also have corrosive projection for some armor strip. You can also use something else for armor strip. I don't think it's needed. As you saw, all the enemies were able to just die in seconds, and yeah, we just need our count that applies viral. That's pretty much what we want. 1 heavy attack, and everything is now dead. It's that easy and that great. This is the build I have been using so far, but the one that Fraud suggested is much better, and it's this one. It uses everything that can boost pretty much slash damage or the damage that slash procs can deal. I did change some stuff in here as well. For example, I'm not using Sacrificial Steel, I'm using Galvanized Steel instead, and I'm also using Prime Reach. Fraud's added more crit damage to the build, and it's fine, but of course having more range is always nice, so that's why I'm using it. If you do not think it's needed, you can remove it and add the more crit damage as well, but I do just enjoy having it. It's just better, and it hits more enemies when you do a heavy attack. So yeah, that's pretty much what we are going to use. And what happens if you use the actual build suggested by the guy that made the build? It's just gonna be even more broken. We don't even have time to cast our 4 again, because those slash procs are very juicy, and they deal millions and millions of damage in 100 million damage, for example, 248 million. Yeah, you can see that the build made for the for the Warframe works much better. It's so broken. It's just not even funny. And as you can see, we are able to get orange grids as well, so yeah, I don't think you need Sacrificial Steel now that we have Galvanized Steel. I think it's just gonna be even more damage. So yeah, frauds, this build is a nuke build. I might have changed some stuff, but as you can see, it does still work perfectly, and I love it. I don't think it's fair to showcase this in an actual mission, because pretty much all the enemies will just die, so I'll just showcase it in here against these very high level enemies that have a lot of armor and a lot of stats, and that's gonna be pretty much it. It's so broken, I actually think I might not use this build in everyday missions, because people might ask what is happening, and I don't want to explain that. So yeah, very fun build, and I love it, thank you. And finally, we have a build for Nyx Prime. This is a warframe that I haven't touched in a while, so I was quite happy that I saw a comment talking about her, because she is pretty cool, but sadly her abilities are kind of lackluster. This build kind of fixes that, and what the build uses is Damage Decoy, which is an augment for Loki's first ability, Decoy, and this augment pretty much makes the Decoy also deal random status effects to the attackers, and the reflected damage is increased by 350%, so we can turn our mind control target into also a status bomb that will just apply random statuses to enemies, and those statuses will deal even more damage. And this build is missing one of the mods that the commenter suggested, and by the way, this build comes from Kenny Harvey 4564. It still is quite fun, and I'm happy that I finally was able to test it, which is yeah, pretty cool. So how the build works is quite simple. We just wanna target the highest rank enemy. In this case, I'm going for a heavy gunner. We wanna cast our 4 and then our 1 and start shooting the poor girl in this case with our weapons. We can reach higher numbers than 1397% more damage for that target, but it's not that important, because the damage it deals is already more than enough to kill enemies. It also will start applying those statuses, which just makes for more damage. And yeah, as you can see, this girl here is clearing all the enemies. We can also move her around by moving ourselves around. She just will teleport or follow us and target enemies. But yeah, I mean, it's a very fun build, and I think that's pretty much it, because yeah, it might be just me not being able to stack more damage on the corrupted heavy gunner. Maybe we can use some other weapons to make that even better. Very cool idea. And I actually think someone commented that he is using the same build but on Loki, so mind control on Loki to do the same thing pretty much, which is very funny. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this build. And that concludes the 3rd episode of Builds from the Comments. I hope you guys enjoyed this series. I'm having a lot of fun testing your builds, and I can't wait to see more of them in the comments, because yeah, you guys come up with the weirdest ones, and I can't wait for the build that will just break the game. So yeah, I also omitted most of the builds that were commented, because some of them I either couldn't make them work, so I guess they were based on some bugs and stuff, and they didn't work that well anymore. Or it might be because they were about Trinity, and since Trinity is receiving a rework in the next update, I'm just waiting for that to pretty much do anything with her. So yeah, that's why there are no more Trinity builds or videos. I'm just waiting for the update, because that will change a lot of stuff. Anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, remember to leave a like and subscribe for more content. I will wish you a great rest of the day now, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.